Okay, so today we're diving into something that really pushes back against conventional wisdom. It's Larken Rose's article, Why I Tell People Not to Vote. I mean, the title alone tells you this isn't your average political chat. Rose makes this, well, truly provocative claim that voting not only fails to bring freedom, but actually perpetuates oppression.
It's a strong opening.
It really is.
Yeah.
So our mission here in this deep dive is basically to pull out the key ideas from this, pretty challenging viewpoint, give you a shortcut to understanding and perspective you might not bump into every day.
Definitely.
And just so we're clear, we're here to explore it, understand it, not necessarily to endorse it.
Right. And it's a fascinating place to start, isn't it? Because Rose isn't just like critiquing the electoral process we have now.
No.
He's going much deeper. He's really questioning the whole idea of government authority itself and how maybe we as individuals kind of unwittingly legitimize it. Well, what's really provocative, I think, is how he forces us to look again at this widely held belief, that participating civically, voting, is just inherently a good thing.
Right, it's almost unquestioned.
Exactly. And he pushes us to ask, okay, if the system itself is flawed, just by its nature of claiming power over people, can participating in it ever really make it legitimate? Or does it just prop it up?
That's a huge question to start with. And Rose, well, he certainly doesn't hold back.
No, he doesn't.
His core argument, basically, is that voting doesn't matter who for which party ultimately reinforces a corrupt and unjust system. That's his view. He believes that any participation in electoral politics legitimizes the power of rulers over individuals. And for him, that directly contradicts, personal freedom, autonomy.
Right.
And the way he builds his case is pretty interesting. He systematically takes apart the common objections, the things people always say when you suggest maybe not voting.
And it's really important to get that this isn't just being cynical about politics or unhappy with the options.
No, it's more fundamental.
It's a philosophical stance, yeah. It's rooted in this idea that any power ruler's claim over individuals is inherently a problem. It's really a critique of the whole structure of governance. He's suggesting like a radical rethink of what consent even means.
He absolutely flips the script on things most people see as just, basic civic duty.
He does.
So let's look at some of those counter arguments he makes. They're pretty striking, like the classic one, if you don't vote, you can't complain.
Right, we've all heard that.
And Rose just turns it completely on its head. He argues that, wait a minute, it's the voters who enabled the system, who empowered the politicians. So in his view, the non-voters actually have more moral standing to criticize because, as he puts it, they didn't contribute to the problem.
It's a total inversion of the usual logic.
Completely. Or how about, this is the system we have. If you don't like it, leave.
Yeah, the love it or leave it kind of thing.
He basically equates that to telling someone who wants freedom they should flee America, which he sees as a huge contradiction, if America is supposed to represent freedom.
So he's pointing out an inconsistency there.
Exactly. And then there's the idea that voting is our only way out of this mess.
The sort of lesser of two evils argument often feeds into that.
Right. And Rose's counter is forceful. He says, voting is how we got into this mess. He thinks continuing to vote is like doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
The definition of insanity, some say.
Pretty much. Even voting third party, he says no.
Yeah, that's important. It's not just anti-Democrat or anti-Republican for him.
No, he means don't vote for anyone. Because even third-party candidates, he argues, are seeking power over others.
So it's the seeking of power itself that's the issue.
That's the core of it for him. And maybe the biggest one. Your vote is your voice.
That's a powerful slogan.
He calls that the ultimate manipulation, where tyrants convince people that choosing between two oppressors equates to self-governance. That's a direct quote.
Wow. He really doesn't pull any punches, does he? He's systematically dismantling these pillars of conventional wisdom about voting.
Totally.
And he keeps coming back to this central theme. The act of voting itself, no matter the intention or the candidate, is an act that legitimizes the power structure.
Right.
But, okay, if voting legitimizes this authority he sees as inherently problematic, if it actually perpetuates the problem, well, that raises a massive question, doesn't it?
Which is?
What does that imply about democracy itself?
As a system. And yeah, that's exactly where he goes next. This idea that voting legitimizes rather than empowers leads him down this even more provocative path.
Okay.
He actually suggests that democracy is the most effective psychological tool ever invented by tyrants.
Wow. Okay, that's a huge claim. How does he justify that?
Well, his reasoning is that it tricks people into thinking they have a say.
Right, the illusion of control.
Exactly. And that illusion, he argues, induces tolerance for things people might otherwise find intolerable. Taxes, wars, surveillance, all that stuff.
Because they feel like they somehow consented to it, or at least to the system that imposes it.
Precisely. His argument boils down to consent through voting is fake. It just masks the violence at the heart of all political power.
Violence meaning coercion, the threat of force behind laws.
Yeah, the state's monopoly on force. He's got another quote here. If they can trick you into thinking you chose your rulers, you're more likely to obey them.
It's a cynical view, but you can see the logic he's building.
And he tries to back it up with history, too. He points out that, totalitarian regimes like Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union also had constitutions, elections, and bills of rights, the trappings of legitimacy, but they still produced, well, brutal tyranny.
So he's saying the form doesn't guarantee the substance. The ritual of voting doesn't automatically mean freedom or real control. His most, maybe, radical contribution here is how he's redefining consent. He's really arguing for this deeper, almost like subconscious level of control.
Yeah.
He's fundamentally challenging how most of us understand political legitimacy, suggesting that what we often call consent of the governed is, well, in his view, it's an illusion. It's a psychological mechanism to keep power running smoothly without constant overt force.
A trick, basically.
A trick, yeah. It really makes you think about, how much of our own obedience comes from genuine agreement versus just feeling like we participated in the process, so we have to accept the outcome.
So, okay, if democracy itself is this kind of psychological manipulation, in his view, what's the alternative? What's Rose's solution?
Does he offer one?
Well, interestingly, he doesn't propose, a new system or a better candidate. Not at all.
Right.
Instead, he calls for total withdrawal from political participation.
Just stop playing the game entirely.
Exactly. His call to action is actually pretty simple. Don't vote. Don't endorse any political figure. Period. He really emphasizes his core belief here. Refuse to grant legitimacy to anyone claiming the right to rule. Just refuse.
So it's an act of individual defiance, essentially.
Yeah. He genuinely seems to believe that real freedom can only come when individuals reclaim full control over their own lives, not when they hand over power or legitimacy to rulers, no matter who they are.
Okay.
And this connects directly to philosophies like voluntarism or anarcho-libertarianism.
Right. Which, it's important to understand, aren't just about being anti-government in a general sense.
No, it's more specific than that.
Yeah, it's this fundamental belief that all legitimate human interactions must be voluntary. And they extend that principle to everything, not just politics or economics.
To society as a whole.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It really pushes the idea of individual autonomy and self-ownership to its kind of logical extreme.
It's a complete paradigm shift.
And that's a critical distinction to make. What Rose is advocating for, he would argue, is the opposite of apathy or just giving up.
Right. It's not about checking out mentally.
No. He sees it as actively reclaiming your own agency. It's a conscious rejection of a system he views as fundamentally coercive, based on force or the threat of it.
So not disengagement, but engagement on a totally different level.
Precisely. On an individualistic plane. For someone with this philosophy, the very act of voting is the act of giving away your inherent sovereignty, something they believe you can't actually transfer.
Because it belongs only to you.
Right. It's about this really radical redefinition of individual sovereignty itself. Not something granted by a state, but something inherent that you refuse to delegate.
Okay, so for listeners who find this intriguing, maybe even compelling, and want to explore it more, Rose does suggest some next steps. He points people towards his free online content videos, articles, and of course his book, which is called The Most Dangerous Superstition.
And beyond those practical resources, Rose throws down a final challenge. And it's not just political, it's really profoundly psychological.
What is it?
He basically asks the reader, asks you to consider, why do you fear freedom? Yeah. Why do you feel anxiety at the idea of no rulers?
That's uncomfortable.
It is. And he suggests this fear isn't like natural or inherent. He argues it's trained, that it's been indoctrinated into us through decades of cultural programming.
So our comfort with authority is learned, not innate.
That's his claim. It's a really challenging thought, isn't it, to even consider that maybe our desire for rulers, or at least our acceptance of them, is something we've been taught rather than something essential for society.
It definitely forces you to look inward. What assumptions have I just accepted without really questioning them? About authority, about governance.
Exactly.
So, wrapping this up, what does all this mean for you, the listener?
I think the key takeaway from Rose's article isn't just that it's an attack on voting.
No, it's much bigger than that.
It's a direct rejection of political authority itself, the whole concept. Like we said, he's not offering a new political movement or a better candidate or a tweaked system. He's offering an entirely different paradigm.
A different way of seeing the world. Yeah. His philosophy basically demands that we abandon the current political framework entirely and reclaim sovereignty as individuals. And he ends with this really powerful thought. You don't need a new ruler. You need to stop needing rulers.
And that really pushes us, doesn't it? It pushes you to consider what freedom truly means. Is it defined by who you get to vote for? Or is it defined perhaps by the absence of any perceived need for a ruler at all?
It's a fundamental shift in perspective.
It is. So maybe reflect on that societal conditioning Rose talks about. Does fear, or maybe just comfort, dictate your own relationship with authority? Is the idea of genuine self-governance without external rulers truly empowering? Or does it bring up a kind of underlying anxiety about what would fill that void?
What a fascinating, definitely challenging deep dive today into a perspective that really asks us to rethink, well, almost everything we thought we knew about civic duty, power, and freedom.
It certainly gives you a lot to mull over.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us as we explored this really unconventional viewpoint. Keep seeking out knowledge, keep questioning, and never stop challenging assumptions.